Hey YouTube, it's Magician34, and I've got an Azorius deck I've been building. I call it You're Under Arrest because it plays around their detain mechanic, and I've so far had a great deal of success with it. It's a really cool standard deck I want to share with you. We'll start with the creature lineup and we'll just go up the mana curve. I'm running 3 copies of Azorius Arrestor. You don't always drop it on turn 2, you almost always wait for a target for it because you're playing a control deck, you're aiming for that late game area. But this is a really good 2-drop. It's a 2/1, so it can inflict some damage, and just anytime it enters play, and we do a lot of bouncing and flickering and whatnot, it detains something. So this is great for such a creature-heavy environment, but one where oftentimes there's really just 1 or 2 key offenders out there, especially in the early to mid-game. This card just really slows them down, and people rarely try to actively kill it, so it just kind of sits there and allows you to re-abuse it later. It's just awesome. It's one of the cards I've been so impressed with from the Azorius family. We're also running 3 copies of Deputy of Acquittals. I'm thinking of going to a full 4. It's hard to say, but basically it's a 2-mana way to unsummon your own creature, and it's a flash. Oh, and it's also a 2/2, so it's pretty resilient. Great way to get your guys out of trouble, and then re-abuse their comes into play abilities. There are quite a few of those. Another excellent card I have nothing but praise for. I'm running 1 copy of Snapcaster Mage. Basically just the one because I can search it out with Angel of Serenity, and in a lot of ways he's not always that great, especially early game, and he's also ridiculously expensive, so why put the money into a card that's only so-so in this particular build? There aren't necessarily that many targets for him the way I've got this deck built, so and there's actually another card that can do his job arguably better for this deck. So I'm just running the one, kind of a trial version, I guess, if you will. You can fetch him back if you feel like he's appropriate. We got 2 copies of Leia of Sky Knight. It's basically a 3/1 flying version of the Arrestor. A little more expensive, but hits harder. Your opponents actively try to kill us a lot, so it's fun to use Restoration Angel and Deputy of Acquittals to get it out of shooting range and then just resummon it and re-detain things. Pretty cool card. Pretty underrated too, I've found, but it really gets the job done. Running 2 copies of Frontline Medic. This guy can be great early to mid-game because his second ability really shuts down things like other players' Sphinx's Revelation or say Rakdos' Return that can otherwise be kind of problematic for you. He can also help all your little weenie creatures kind of press damage through because of his first ability, his Battalion. So far I've enjoyed him. He hasn't really done me wrong. Still kind of testing about that, but I've liked him so far. Plus he's a 3/3 for 3, so it's all good. 3 copies of Restoration Angel. Kind of a no-brainer in this deck, especially as we see more of the creatures. Just lots of things to abuse with her effect. Plus she's a 3/4 flying, so that's good. Just 1 copy of Azorius Judiciar, because she has a 4-drop 2/2. But her ability to detain double things is really cool, and she doesn't care about how big they are, unlike our legendary who's coming up. And another target for the Angel of Serenity to bring back for you to play out, and then you can of course just start Restoration Angel and deputying her to constantly re-abuse her effect. Good for decks that rely on opponents who rely on like really big, 1 or 2 really big creatures that may be out of Lavinia's range. Here's one of the most head-scratching cards of all in the deck. It's Archaeomancer. A lot of people say, why this over Snapcaster? It's twice the cost. But basically because she's much better with Sphinx's Revelation, and she doesn't get rid of the thing. Basically, she doesn't force you to exile the thing that she retrieves, meaning that while she may sacrifice a little bit of speed versus Snapcaster, bouncing her in and out of play constantly, which is kind of the theme of the deck, isn't such a bad thing because you can continually bring back and re-abuse the same instant or sorcery with her, which you can't do with Snapcaster because he gets rid of it, versus this card that doesn't. So it's actually proven to be a pretty cool idea, and once again we just have the one because we'll draw into it eventually, and then we can just Serenity it and whatnot to get to it, so it's all good. We got 1 copy of Council of the Absolute, which I may or may not keep, but it's really fun to set to like Sphinx's Revelation for the mirror match and stuff like that. Plus it's just a decent creature, and you can use it to block your opponent, name just whatever is crucial for their deck, yada yada. So I alluded to before, we got 3 copies of Lavinia the 10th. She's a great 5-drop. You can flicker her for astounding power in a lot of matchups. Plus she's a 4/4. She's one of your few quote-unquote aggressive creatures. Very good. And last but not least, we're running 2 Angel of Serenity. The deck's got plenty of control, so you can make 7 and cast these, and you can of course cycle one with the other, so you theoretically never run out of creatures. Kind of a win condition too. You're a big giant 5/6 flyer. The players kind of think twice before they kill it. That ends the creature lineup. We have 1 Planeswalker. It's a single copy of Jace Memory Adapt. He's sort of an alternate win condition in case the game goes long or your opponent manages to hold off your attacks or blah blah blah. So he's a nice little one-up to have there. Entering our non-creature, non-planeswalker spells, we do have 2 copies of Essence Scatter because it's a really creature-heavy environment. This can be a nice way to use 2 extra mana, especially late game or right after you use Supreme Verdict or something like that. Pretty nice. It's one of the more flexible cards in this build, but I've enjoyed it so far. We have 4 copies of Supreme Verdict. Like I say, it's a super creature-heavy environment right now. Verdict is a pretty cost-efficient, really good card. It's basically Wrath of God in an environment without Wrath of God. And you can easily pay the cost in this deck, no problem. I'm also running 2 copies of Aetherize, partially because of that whole creature environment thing. It's a great way to lock up your opponent's mana too. Get yourself some board control without sacrificing your creatures. Kind of do this, and then you push your weenies through on the next turn. It's a fun card to bounce back with Archaeomancer or Snapcaster, for example. And last but not least, we're running 3 copies of Sphinx's Revelation. This definitely keeps it going. You fire one of these, and you're definitely out of your opponent's range to kill, and you should be able to win off the just the sheer card advantage. Really nice card there. Also kind of a no-brainer for the deck. Our land count, we have 26 lands, but I think it's justified because once again we're playing a control deck. We like to hit all our land drops. We have 4 fountains, 4 Glacial Fortress, 1 Moorland Haunt. It's a nice, Serenity in this fight a little bit, but not too much, and it's a nice way to sort of force game over some players, so I do like a copy of Moorland Haunt. And in our lands, we got 9 plains and 8 islands, and that's our land count. So there you go. It's my You're Under Arrest Azorius deck. Really good, great to take to your local. And until next time, like, comment, subscribe, and check out my channel for more cool gaming content.